You're watching News Channel 4 at 5, the news leader.
And we begin at 5 with a stay of execution for death row inmate Richard Glossip.
Another one. Governor Mary Fallin issued a 37-day stay just before 4 o'clock this afternoon. That execution now set for November 6th. In a statement issued by her office, that extra time will be used to address Oklahoma's execution protocols. The governor said last-minute questions were raised today about chemicals used for lethal injection. Richard Glossip was convicted in the 1997 murder of his boss, Barry Van Treese. This is the 4th stay issued so far in this case. The victim, Barry Van Treese, a motel owner, was bludgeoned to death in a murder-for-hire scheme. New at 5, more on the chemical used in the execution that is now under scrutiny. Allie Meyer, along with Abby Broyles, are standing by outside the McAllister State Prison with details. And Allie, we're not talking about the controversial drug midazolam right now, rather something entirely different here.
Kevin, that is quite right. We're not talking about midazolam here, that suspect drug that has gone all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court. We're talking about an entirely different drug, and we are just now learning within the past few minutes that this may be a case of a completely absent-minded mix-up. I'm joined now by Sister Helen Prejean. She is learning a little bit more. Sister Helen, you were inside with Richard Glossip. And
no, I wasn't with Richard. We were the witnesses for Richard were all being held in a room waiting. And so we were waiting on word when we would be brought into the execution chamber, which was supposed to happen at 3. And so then at 2:45 it wasn't happening, and I knew they had to allow time to get us in a van, so I knew things were delayed, but I didn't know why. And now I find out it wasn't the U.S. Supreme Court. It was Oklahoma, and because they had the wrong drugs. But what this brings out is Supreme Court has allowed states to administer the death penalty. As they said, the states should be in charge of punishing criminals the way they choose, and so Oklahoma has the death penalty, and they've let them in charge of choosing the drugs they can experiment to kill people.
We are learning from Governor Mary Fallin that the problem in this execution was a drug called potassium acetate. So that was confusing to us in the media because we don't see potassium acetate listed at all as one of the execution drugs. What do you know about the involvement of potassium acetate in the execution of Richard Glossip?
It's a food preservative. It also happens to be a Richard Glossip preservative because he's not dead, because they messed it up. They got the wrong drugs. And one of the real bad problems is the Supreme Court has been allowing states to experiment. They're not monitoring this at all. They're leaving it up to the states, and Oklahoma messed it up.
So what you're telling me is you believe the state mixed up potassium acetate and potassium chloride, the drug that stops the heart.
Potassium chloride is the real killer. It's the real killer. And that's when Charles Warner was executed, and he said, I have acid in my veins because it's just like fire going through your veins and it stops your heart. So you're supposed to have an anesthetic, which midazolam has not proved to be very effective. And they didn't get potassium chloride. They got potassium acetate.
You've spoken with Richard on the phone just a few minutes ago. You and his best friend from New Jersey who traveled here to witness the execution were just speaking with him. We heard a little snippet of that from on speakerphone. How would you describe his state of mind today? He was supposed to be dead almost exactly 2 hours ago.
Yeah, he's alive. This thing is so absolute. If they'd carried out the execution, he would be absolutely dead. He's absolutely alive. And who can get their mind around this? Who can get their mind around this? I can't get my mind around it, neither can he. He's been losing weight, and it's wearing on him because he's had these 3 close calls with death waiting to die, and he's still alive.
For more on exactly what went on here today, we want to switch gears and talk with Abby Broyles, who's been speaking with his attorney and part of your team, Don Knight. Abby, go ahead.
Allie, thank you. And Don Knight has been Glossip's attorney since earlier this year. You just got off the phone with Richard. Tell me a little bit about that conversation.
Well, obviously he's happy. He's thrilled that he's still alive. He is as confused as the rest of us as to where in the process this happened. He was in his cell. He said he had been pacing for 2.5 hours in his boxer shorts, waiting for something to happen, not knowing what's going to happen. You know, he talked about how difficult the process is. It's like torture is what it is. You know, I mean, he was thinking that they were going to come. He was waiting for the stay. He thought when he heard about the stay it was the Supreme Court. He had no idea. So this process is just really wearing him down. It's truly a difficult thing for him to take, just like it is for all of us to take.
Do you know anything about the drug, what appears to be a mix-up at this point?
I don't know anything other than what I've seen on the governor's stay order. That's all I've seen, and you know, it looks like a mix-up. I mean, I don't know how these things happen. I don't know how people can mix this up, but you know, we're going to find out and take it from there.
Okay, Don Knight, thank you so much for speaking with us.
Thank you so much.
We'll have more information coming up a little bit later on News Channel 4. For Allie Meyer, I'm Abby Broyles reporting live in McAllister. Marianne, back to you.
All right, Abby Broyles, thank you. Great job out there.